Welcome to our Ad Filtering Dev Summit here in Amsterdam. Thank you, Caro and Ben, for this nice introduction, also for the nice words about me. So I would suggest let's start a bit in a relaxed way. Let's talk about movies. Many years ago, I watched my first science fiction movie as a little girl in secret with my elder brothers. And guess which movie it was? It was 2001, A Space Odyssey. What a movie. I think many of you know this movie. It's very long. Many years ago when I watched it, I didn't understand everything. Much good music, but there were some scenes I will never forget. Imagine you are Dave, an astronaut together with another astronaut, with Frank, on an important mission in a spacecraft, the Discovery 1, together with some frozen scientists, and also together with HAL 9000. A human-like, super artificial, mega super duper computer who controls everything, who talks to you in a very friendly voice. And someday you recognize HAL did a mistake. Something went wrong. And you want to talk with Frank about this. And you want to do this in private without knowing HAL that you talk about him. And you go to a little room, locked it together with Frank, and you check, can HAL hear us? You disconnect HAL, talk about HAL. Perhaps we have a problem with the version. Perhaps we have to switch it off. We don't know. But what you don't know is that HAL is watching you and can read your lips' movements. So HAL knows, but you don't know that HAL knows. But little Gertrud, on her couch sitting, knows that HAL knows, and Dave and Frank don't know. Then a bit later, you are in a little space shuttle outside the Discovery 1, in the space, repairing something, doing something whatsoever. I can't tell you the whole movie right now, yeah? But you want to go back into the Discovery 1, and you say, HAL, open the door, please. HAL, open the door. HAL, open the door. This is you in the little space shuttle. In the big spacecraft, Discovery 1, there is HAL. And then, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I cannot do this. You are Dave in this little space shuttle, and HAL doesn't open the door. I don't want to spoiler. Watch this movie. It's a really great one. But of course, this is an interesting situation, so let's not become Dave. You know, I'm not a fan of dystopia. I'm a very positive, optimistic person. I like technology invention. I like technology progress. I like our artificial intelligence generate AI discussion. I'm really not a fan of dystopia. So I'm very positive. But of course, we have to think about how technology influences our daily lives. So let's look a bit back. You all know this timeline, yeah, the big technological inventions and how deeply they impact our day-to-day life, our economy, our society, and therefore also our politics, how we are as human beings. And when we see big shifts in the past, we talk about revolutions, about the Industrial Revolution, the second revolution, the third one. Some people at the moment talk about the fourth revolution because generate AI. And we can talk about the outputs, trains, electricity, computers, the web, internet, robots. But what is much more interesting is the outcome, what value we created. Why are we doing this? So what do we want to aim? Yeah, we all want to have a better life. Sounds easy, but it's much complicated. And when we talk about value creation, normally, primarily, we talk about money. The driver is making profit, and it's a huge driver, and it's also a good driver. Yeah, I don't want to talk about our political system right now, capitalism, and so on. But this is the first drive. We want to make money, we want to make profit, and this works pretty well. We have many comfortable products, but the question is, do we have a better life? Are we happier right now? We can talk now about the happiness index of the UN, but this is the key question. How shall technical products look like to ensure a better life for all of us? So this is a really complex question, and the philosophers already knew this. There is a school of philosophers, the famous school, who already discussed this, thought about this, that there are countless qualities who promotes having a better life. And this school the name of the school is humanism. Let's read the definition of humanism. The term humanism encompasses all the efforts and actions of people or groups that are directed towards the good survival and well-being of human beings as such. Humanism is thus a value system defined by the general humane values of the culture concerned, but also by individual values and rituals. So it's complex, isn't it? It's not so easy. What is a good life? What kind of values do we have? It depends on individuals, on different cultures. So how can we bring this together, humanism and technology? Let's make it a bit more concrete, a bit more tangible. I brought some principles. First, humanistic user centricity. We all know about user centricity, customer centricity. For example, Amazon, the first guideline is we are all customer centric. That's why Amazon is so successful, so big, did a great job so far. There is this famous graphic, I don't know if you know this, where what is visualized their guidelines, and in the middle it's growth again. Yeah, we do want to build a better product from the user perspective to increase the users, reaching more users, avoiding churn, making more money, making more profit. With humanistic user centricity is meant, hey, we want to achieve a better life. So when we see that our algorithm, our recommendation algorithm, really hurt human lives, let's talk about this, let's change it. This is the idea behind this. Environment and context. At the moment, we all, also at this conference, we will talk about sustainability, about this new metric in town, CO2 emissions, and this is so important because we are in the middle of a serious climate crisis. We all know this. We have to change our behavior. We have to change something. It doesn't work. And of course, with our technology, we need so much electricity. So we have to think about CO2 emissions when we develop software or having a complex algorithm or talking about our complex models. But of course, there are also other things. What about the raw materials for our devices? Yeah, we will see huge impact for geopolitical relationships between countries. What about when we talk about environment and context, the idea of having an open, accessible web for everybody? When we provide walled gardens in this system, it will contradict this idea. So this is not a good idea. This is what I meant with environment and context. We have to consider this. Transparency. Nobody can foresee in the future. At the moment, we have some smart people who tell me all the time the future will look like this. And I can tell you, oh, these are assumptions. You don't know. It's so complex. Nobody knew about the Ukraine war, and now the situation is different. So don't tell me you know about the future. That's why transparency comes into the game. When you cannot foresee the consequences of your products for human beings, then transparency is a good idea, because then you can comprehend and understand the reason for this, and then you can change this. This is, for me, the biggest argument for open source. Tech organizations and architecture. To be honest, I don't like the term architecture. It's an association of building houses. We don't build houses, it's too fixed. Software development, it's much more flexible. It's like living organisms. So why not talking about gardens or cooking meals? But this is a different story. But what is interesting is we have the deep correlation between technical organizations and architecture. There's this famous law, Conway's Law from the 60s, which says, any organization which designs systems will produce designs whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. So if you want to build a technical architecture with different components, you have to make sure that your technical organization is set up like this, because otherwise the organization wins. The interesting question now is, when we talk about having more automation in software development, is this still the case? I don't know yet, but this is really an interesting question. But also here, we have to consider human beings, how they interact, how they communicate when we talk about technical architecture. Measurement and incentives. It's a great management tool to have metrics in place to make sure everybody runs into the right direction. Talking about OKRs to really have a good incentivation for your people. But having top-down metrics, it's not a good idea because it's really demotivating for the human beings working in the teams. And of course, also when you do top-down measurement and defining metrics and you are far away, it doesn't make sense. You have to talk to the teams and ask them what kind of metrics does make sense in the context of the goal we want to achieve. You work with human beings. And also sometimes when you have an organization with different teams and different metrics, and a risk comes from the outside, a change whatsoever, sometimes it takes very long to shift in another direction because human beings need a bit time to understand and to change. The last principle I would like to mention is leadership engagement. When we talk about humanistic user centricity, it's a bold statement when I think, hey, it's not all about profit. We also have to think about other values for a better life for human beings, for all of us. And then you have perhaps doing less money. And of course, for this, you need leadership engagement to see and to drive this full picture. We saw in the last years a change when it comes to profiles of being a good leader. Values play such a big role nowadays. Yeah? It was not the case in the past. So these are my principles to make it more tangible. And now you ask yourself, oh, Gertrud, this is, I hope, interesting. But what is the connection to our ad filtering dev summit here in Amsterdam? First of all, the story of ad blocking and ad filtering, I could have talked about the first ad banner and so many advertisers and then ad blocking and ad filtering. Yeah, the whole story. You all know the story. But this is a great example because at first the whole idea of having an open accessible web, also a system where a user is able to change, to impact the experience he or she has in the web via browser extensions, this is a great idea. I love it. And that user took action and say, oh no, I don't want to see all these ads, I block them. And it's possible to do so. And then the next step to say, hey, we want to keep the balance, we want to have an open, accessible web. Therefore, we have to also reward the publishers. This is an interesting story, and I think it fits perfectly well into these principles. And the next thing, of course, is the format. We are here as human beings talking with each other, discussing, debating, inspire each other, getting to know each other. And when we talk about having a better life and which system do we want to live, this is absolutely important. And this is what philosophers call being a political human being. We cannot ask ChatGPT for this. We have to talk, we have to interact. We have to be here to discuss really a great future for all of us. And that's why, this conference is a small one. It's not about making business, meeting partners. It's not about marketing. It's about discussing what kind of system do we have at the moment? How do we handle this? Where do we want to go? And this is why I really love this conference so much. And I'm looking forward to these 2 days. Thank you, and have a great discussion.